Bootstrap Paragraphs. I have the slides up online if you want to follow along. It's at bir.ch/bp, and everything has links that are clickable throughout. There's a demo site at bp.jimbirch, and you can follow me on Twitter at @thejimbirch. So today we are going to be talking about the Bootstrap Paragraphs module. The Bootstrap Paragraphs module it provides a suite of content and layout paragraph bundles made for the Bootstrap framework. So it doesn't require the Bootstrap theme, works with the Bootstrap theme, but it needs any theme that has the Bootstrap CSS and JavaScript in it. What I'm trying to do with this module is build a better page builder. We've been trying to use Drupal to allow our content creators to create pages on the internet. We've had blocks and contexts and panels and paragraphs. We're constantly evolving and working on basically helping our clients deliver better pages to the internet. So let me pop open. Oop, that's not good. The demo site. These are the basic types. We have a simple and some images. We can lay out long scrolling pages with accordions and carousels and columns. All of these things can be reordered using the drag and drop interface of Drupal. We have contact forms and modals and tabs and views. Oh my! So you can click through the demo site and see like an actual implementation of all these. And I'll come back to this and we'll go to each of the different things. So Drupal Paragraphs. How many people here are using Paragraphs right now? All right, awesome. For those of you that aren't, Paragraphs, it's a contrib module that allows the creation, administration, and display of customizable content components. So like a page is a customizable content component, like the paragraphs are just a smaller chunk of what we can do in that page. I first found paragraphs when I was working on a project and I wanted a different width of the body field for text than I did for images. Good typography is about 60 to 70 characters per line. Really, really long pages are hard to read for people, or really, really wide pages are hard to read for people. A lot of studies have shown that 60 to 70 characters is perfect. But when you do that, you have a column in the middle of the screen. To restrict images there, you're missing that big viewport of your screen. So we needed a way to get text here, images and video here. Okay. I wanted a way to structure content. I've been frustrated with WYSIWYG editors since 1997, and the first custom CMS that I ever built, I asked the developers to just get that out. Take it off. I'll learn HTML. WYSIWYG integration with media in Drupal 6 and Drupal 7 was buggy at best. Like if you could get it all working, it was really hard to keep it working. And the ability to add semantic markup to the different chunks of content. When you break things out into smaller elements, you can add things like schema.org markup, or even just structured HTML5. And then the last thing is easy to administer layouts. We need a way for our content creators, while they're creating content, to administer layouts, put things in columns, reorder rows, and then add cool things like heroes and slideshows and carousels. So Bootstrap framework. Everybody here use and love Bootstrap? Yeah, maybe, maybe not. I use Bootstrap. It's the most popular front-end framework on the internet. It's got a great grid. It's got a great mobile-first functionality. These themable components like the carousels and the tabs, and a great readable typography base. One of the best things about it, in my opinion, working at a small agency, is that it's documented. The instructions for every version 2, 3, 4 are online. They're standardized. It helps onboard new developers. You don't have to figure out what Mario was doing 2 years ago or what I was thinking 3 years ago. The documentation is written, because even though people can probably write more simple, easy to read CSS, they don't always document as they go. That's one of my favorite things about it. It's customizable for large projects. You can take the Bootstrap mix-ins and classes and apply them to your own semantic HTML by compiling it up with Grunt or Gulp or Bower or Yarn or Broccoli. And it's best practices for small and low budget things, so you can just use it right out of the box. Final thing is that it's open source. They do their development on GitHub. You find something wrong, you can make a pull request and help out with the project. With these techniques, I implemented all of these using the Bootstrap framework. You can use it with any framework you want. A lot of people have use Foundation, the Foundation grid. You can take the same principles that I applied in this module and apply it to Foundation. Slit Carousel or any other cool JavaScripty things. You can make individual custom paragraph modules that take these other external libraries and make it into a paragraphs component. So try to remember that if you're using something else. So if you're already using paragraphs, how many times have you built the 3-column paragraph or the text and image paragraph, slideshow paragraph, or gallery paragraph? And how many times have you built it just a little bit differently? I go back to my first Drupal 8 project, and I'm thinking I know what the columns paragraph is, but it's just a little bit off from what I'm doing these days. If you're not using paragraphs, install this module on a base site, or an empty site, and just start playing around with it. You can see the possibilities, and you can come up with your own ideas on how to create your own or how you can do this kind of system. So my strategy for this module, I wanted to create a module that would create the base paragraph, the basic paragraphs that I would use on 80% of my sites, that 80-20 rule. I want out of the box install one module, and I'm almost out the door. That would include base templates and CSS that would be used on any of our Bootstrap themes, whether it be the base Bootstrap theme or custom that we build ourselves. I wanted to harness the power of the entity reference revision fields to nest paragraphs. So in Drupal 8, Paragraphs bundle came with a submodule called entity reference revisions, meaning we're referencing other paragraphs from a paragraph, and it's going to reference a current revision. So every time the page gets saved or the node gets saved that this paragraph is on, it creates a new revision, which is really a powerful tool. And then have some global options on these paragraphs. So right now I have a width and a background color on every single paragraph bundle in this suite. Let me get to that now. So I first got this idea about 1.5 years ago, and we were formulating it and kind of laying it out. And I saw this great presentation by Les Lim and David Needham, who's right over there. Hope his ears are ringing. That they've given a few times. I saw it at Twin Cities Drupal Camp last year, using paragraphs to weave a beautiful content tapestry. And they presented the idea of thinking of your paragraph bundles, your content components, as content, layout, and ponies. It's like, ponies? What? So, you broke out what is content, things like images, media, text, what is layout, grids and carousels and tabs, and then ponies are that last 20%. These special little things that the designer designs that you're like, what? How am I going to implement this thing? And we magically whip up some dust and make ponies. So that helped me solidify the idea for this module. So the global settings. every paragraph has the width and the background color. There are many background colors and 5 widths to begin. I took the Bootstrap column framework and turned it into English, because a lot of site builders and content editors don't know what call SM4 is. So we have tiny, narrow, medium, wide, and then full screen. And this is what they look like. So this is the same image paragraph from tiny to full. So we can basically have a tiny or a narrow text column, and then we can have a full screen video or image, whatever else. Background colors. I've included 50 background colors. I think they're all material design colors with some different shades. And then there's 5 empty classes that you can apply in your theme. Primary, secondary, success, info, warning, and danger. That comes from the Bootstrap color nomenclature. And there's a little chart of what all those colors is. Once this is installed to this field, you can add as many different colors as you want. I'm working on a project right now that has 10 different gradients. We basically just add a class here and then put the CSS in our file. And we have magic to have new background colors. So let's go through the types. Our content bundles. These are reference fields to content elements. Simple HTML. This is a WYSIWYG. Image, image with a link on it. Blank, which is a text field that has no rules. We can reference Drupal blocks, views. We have a couple submodules, and then hopefully by 8.5 I release a media paragraph bundle. The layouts, columns, carousel, accordion, modal, and tabs. These are all the Bootstrap goodies. So here's what the simple looks like. You have your background field and your narrow field, and then a text field. This is exactly what your standard body field would be. This is going to be your content editor's default. The image, again, background and width. You have an image field with the alt text required, requirement for accessibility and just best practices for SEO and everything else. And then a link field. You can link to the image, you can link to a page, whatever you need. The blank. I use the blank to put in scripts from external services. So if you're doing Pardot or Salesforce or Eloqua or Marketo, and you'd have forms to put in. I've injected some JSON LD on specific pages for SEO or MailChimp forms, basically anything that wouldn't pass the WYSIWYG of the simple. This is a security concern, so only allow editors that you trust to do this, and you can do that by enabling the paragraphs permission module to restrict access to this particular paragraph. Drupal blocks. So in Drupal 8, blocks are entities, and we can reference them. Out of the box, we need to know what the block type is. So out of the box, we can't do all custom blocks. We can only do Drupal blocks. So I included this as a reference to build upon when you do add custom blocks. And it's pretty cool. Not everything works, but some things do. So we can reference menus, the awesome powered by Drupal block, site branding, status messages, and tabs. So really right now the only functional thing that you could do is you could put a menu in line with your paragraph bundles, which has some unique design cases. What's not working, and I'm not smart enough to know why they're not working. I think maybe they don't have field formatters that work with them, but the admin menu, breadcrumbs, I really wish breadcrumbs would work. That would be great to be able to put that in line and move that around the screen. Page title, same thing. Tools, and then a whole bunch of other admin things. Views. This is kind of one of my favorite things, that I can reference a view from a paragraph bundle. So I could put a simple paragraph on the top. Allow my content editor to just write whatever he wants without having to get into the view header or some other thing, or reference another entity from a view. So we could put a simple paragraph at the top. We can embed a view block. This uses the views reference field, which you can also pass arguments to it. So you basically, there's an autocomplete to reference the view. You can select which display of that view and pass it arguments, include the view title if you need to. Really cool module views reference field. Okay, so now into the layouts. The columns, there are 3 column type bundles that allow you to structure your content horizontally. The first one is equal. You can add up to 6 and it auto-generates the percentages that it needs to be. So you add 2, it's going to be 50-50. You add 3, it's going to be 33%. You add 6, it's going to be 6. And then there's 3 column and 2 column uneven bundles. And these have additional settings to say which are the percentage widths there. So here's what the equal look like all the way down. So just a simple in each, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. The 2 uneven. So here, the uneven have the 25% and 33%, or 3/4 and quarters and thirds. And then you can actually apply the different widths all the way down. And then the 3 uneven column gets even crazier. So with Bootstrap, there's so many possibilities. You can have, a call 5 and a call 7, or vice versa. We picked the most common ones that we saw, used in our designs. But again, this is a field that gets in your database once it's installed. You could add any combination that you want, and then you'd add the CSS to go along with it. The column wrapper. So the columns is just one field. So if you added 3 columns into an equal, you could rearrange them easily, just drag and drop them around. If you wanted multiple things in the column, you can add a column wrapper, and that says, I want an image here and a simple underneath it. That's what it looks like in the 2 uneven columns. The Bootstrap Carousel. This is, awesome. Everybody needs a carousel on their site, right? Bootstrap Paragraphs allows you to put 30 or 40 on a page if you want. This has a slide content field. So we have another entity reference inside an entity reference. So basically you add a carousel and then you pick what goes inside of each slide. You could add a 2 column and then add an image and the text. You could add a big image, you could add a video. Basically, the possibilities are endless. You have just this framework that you can stick whatever column you want in a carousel, add as many slide content paragraphs you want in there. It also has a slide interval speed option, so the default is none, but you can set that from, I think, 1 to 7 seconds, and then you modify that if you want. The accordion uses the Bootstrap collapse JavaScript. This one, it got probably the most attention in the issue queue after I launched it. I've never really used it that much, but lots of people do. So this one gets a little deeper as you have a title and then a accordion content. So you need something to pop that link open. So it has 2 things there. But inside you can do anything you want again. You could put columns, you could put a contact form in this tab, so you're not taking up a lot of on-screen real estate. Modals, I don't use much. I probably use this the most for contact forms too. Basically, it just adds a button on the screen, and you have the control over what text to put on, and then it pops open the modal, and you can put modal title, modal header, and modal body, just more reference fields to whatever you want. Again, not the best practices in this day and age. Modals don't work that well on mobile phones. But it's in Bootstrap, and I figured out how to build it, so it's in there. Tabs, another super popular one. Same thing, this like the accordion, this has a title, so your tab title, and then inside, and you can put as many tabs across as you want. You can control the width. You can put this in a 2 column, and then a tab has a 2 column in it. Just Russian nesting dolls of all my little Lego bricks here. So those are the basic paragraph types. Happy dance. Anybody have any questions so far? No? Okay. Submodules. When I first launched this site, yeah?
You said earlier the blocks working and not working.
Yeah.
All custom blocks work, right?
Yeah, yeah. But
You're just talking about core blocks?
yeah, unlike, so when you first select, those were core blocks, yeah. And when you select, like when you select paragraphs, if you don't select any option on the page, you get all of the options. Reference fields to blocks, you have to select one. So it's a required field. So I can't just say any custom block on the site I'm referencing to. You have to actually pick the custom block you're referencing.
Right.
So I have I have that in extending this module.
Right.
So yeah, we'll get into that. So when I first launched this site, it had a contact form paragraph bundle in it. Like, I was like, oh, contact form is the greatest thing ever in Drupal core. With the context storage module, why would you need web form? And then I started working on Drupal 8 sites, and I'm like, oh, okay, I need web form. It has a bunch of other functionality. So we actually pulled out the contact form from the base module and made it a submodule. So you get additional modules when you enable this. You would have to enable either the contact form module, which basically has a reference field to core contact modules. On the one site I did do this on, we used it with inline entity form. So basically, inline entity form gives you a complex add form that says, do you want to select an existing contact form, or would you like to add a new contact form? And if you click add, you get an actual add contact form, entity form inside of your page here, which is pretty cool. So you can allow your administrators to write a blog post, and then at the bottom they can say, oh, you want to learn more? Add a contact form. They can create a new contact form or reference an existing one. Similar, I added the same functionality to web form. So if you're using the web form module, which is so much more powerful than the default contact form, you can do the same thing with web form. Okay, and then this is the best GIF ever. So then our site builders can get their mail. Okay. Not as funny as I thought. Okay, so if you're a site builder, this may get a little bit boring, but I wanted to go into the template and markup strategy for this module for the site builders and the front enders here. So like I said, I don't use the base Bootstrap markup. I experienced going from Bootstrap 2 to Bootstrap 3, where they radically changed the classes. So in Bootstrap 2, they were span 4. In Bootstrap 3, they were call, span, for, SM, something like that. So I wanted to come up with a BEM style, block element modifier style markup for the paragraph bundle that we can apply these styles to kind of future-proof it. So Bootstrap 4 is in beta now. It's about to come out. Without even trying, most of this stuff already works with Bootstrap 4. So hopefully we're a little bit future-proof for Bootstrap 5 or 6 or X, whatever comes next. So the default wrapper on our paragraph templates is .paragraph. Here I apply the row paragraph from Bootstrap. This fits in a container, so like in our page template or our region template, we're going to want to have container or container fluid. I did the row here, and I started here at the row because rows can be nested inside of other columns. So this is where the entity reference revisions ties in with the Bootstrap. So you can you have a row with a column here, and inside of that I can put a row with a column, and a row with a column, and a row with a column. And all the markup works out of the box. Also on that outside div, we get the paragraph modifiers, and these are pretty close to what comes with the default paragraphs. We have the paragraph type, we have the view mode, which this module doesn't really use, but you have different view modes for paragraphs. You get that class. We apply the width name here and the color name if there's a color applied. The next thing inside of that is the paragraph column. So the outside is the row, the paragraph column gets inherited from that class on the row, the width full or width medium. We apply it to that paragraph underscore column. That's where your call SM8s are. And then inside we have our TWIG goodness. We print content without the width field and the background field, since we're applying that as classes. So here's what that looks like. If you're not used to TWIG, it looks a little crazy. But at the top, we're rendering the width field first. We basically say what's on the left comes in our classes on the right. So technically, we could have a 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 in the database. And then on the right, we could have our classes. We do this in the template because we don't want to restrict what's in the database to be our classes forever. We could, so say, like the paragraphs nomenclature changes, say something awesome comes along and replaces BEM, block element modifier. We can come in the template, the stuff in the left is in the database, we can change it in our front end theme on the right. The second chunk merges with field with classes. So every entity on Drupal has this classes element variable. We basically take that with, merge it in, and then print it at the bottom. I tried to comment all throughout the template, so you see these gray lines with the bracket and hashtag. Basically every chunk I'm putting in there, I try to comment what it is doing. We're also using the templates to load libraries. Drupal 8 has the great implementation of libraries. So we're not using the .info file to load the CSS. We are doing it at the template level. And our base template loads the basics we need, and then if it's a column, we load the columns. Then you get into deeper things. So if you get into the tab template, which is in itself, we don't need the columns, but we do need the base and then the tabs. So basically, we're not loading all of the CSS for this module. We're doing it only as it's needed. So in the module field, we have all of these libraries. Basically, there's the base, the colors, and the columns. Those are the front ones. And then as you get down into the specific templates, accordion tabs, we're loading it. And we load it, what's the word? With the pre-process false flag. So your base and your columns and your colors get into your aggregated CSS. Your accordion, if you only have it on one page, we're just going to bring that CSS in individually on its own page. If it wasn't pre-processed, when that page loaded, it will regenerate your compiled CSS. So there isn't much benefit to not compiling it. This is a little quicker. It's a second file, but it doesn't have to re-aggregate and load your whole CSS file. So it really gets into the power of libraries. Oh, and then, so I mentioned at the beginning, we don't have the container. I usually add another region to my page template called structured content. And then put a div around it, structured content, class, and take off the padding left and the padding right, and width 100%, and then those background colors go all the way to the edge of the screen. The padding is on the columns that's on the inside. And then this is what that looks like. So you still can have your content region with your page title and your tabs and your messages and your help, and then you have the main page content, which has your structured content field in the structured content region. So let's talk about overriding. You can customize this module in your theme. Your theme has higher priority than this. Most of all of the functionality comes from configuration, which Drupal 8 configuration is the best. Hopefully you went to Mike's training or session yesterday, or go to Drupal Camp Atlanta and see it next. Once you install this module, that configuration is in your database. You own it. It's never going to go back to the module. Likewise, your theme plays a higher priority than this module. So any CSS you want, you can override it in your theme layer. In fact, if you wanted to, after you install this module, you can uninstall it, like my presentation. To do that, you would need to move all the templates to your theme, move the CSS, all these libraries to your theme, and that's it. So you can pretend like you worked all day to make all these content bundles, and really it was just a composer file or a drush en Bootstrap Paragraphs, and you're good to go. Okay, so let's talk about extending this, using Bootstrap Paragraphs as a base, building out your other ponies and your custom blocks, that kind of thing. So here we're going to make a custom block paragraph bundle type for the awesome block, custom block that I have on this page. So we make a new custom block bundle, paragraph bundle. We're going to copy the Drupal block, the BP block thing. So this is what it looks like. It has a background field, a block, which is the entity reference, and then the width field. So the first thing, we're going to add a paragraph type. It's called awesome block. Okay. Maybe I should just stand over here. And then add fields. The first thing you do is add the existing field. So reuse an existing field, go in and grab the background color. Easy peasy. Go in and grab the width field. Even more easy peasy. And then we're going to add the awesome block reference field. So this is add a new field, and you go down to reference revisions. Because entity reference revisions module comes from the makers of paragraphs, they know about paragraphs, and to them everything else is other. So if you were making your own modules or things that could get referenced, they're going to be in other. On the next screen, you have content, which is nodes, custom blocks, and paragraphs. So we're going to select custom blocks. And then here's the screen I was talking about, Mike. So you have to pick the block type, the awesome block here, and then, because you don't want the not so awesome block. If you wanted to reference every custom block, you just check them all. Go into the manage display, and we want to display the key from the background and width field. This is what prints the classes in that template, and then the rendered entity of the awesome block. And that's it. So that's a really simple explanation of this. Next, we're going to do the hero. So this came out of my last project that I worked on, where we needed a big, beautiful hero with parallax and a little like zoom and Ken Burns effect. So in addition to let's see here, what did we do? So we have the paragraph reference field. So inside of the hero, you can do any other paragraph type. We added a background image. Since then, we have a branch we're actually working on, a background video also. Doesn't work with the parallax yet, so it's not quite ready for prime time. But it has 4 option fields: parallax option, image overlay option, image overlay invert, and then the zoom Ken Burns effect. So here's what it looks like all together. Here's what the fields look like. We have that background image field, which prints in the template. We have the content, the entity reference revisions, and then the 4 list fields that give us our options. In the screen, similar to the hero, similar to the awesome block, we have the keys for the values, and then the rendered entity in the image. Similar to the width classes we were talking about earlier, we set data attributes for the overlay level, that the JavaScript can hook into. Same thing for the parallax speed. We added in the xenoparallax field, and then here we add them to, we add the classes, and we merge them in. There's the zoom classes, and then we put it all together at the end. So kind of hard to read, but the first line we're adding the classes attributes, so things that get added as classes, we merge in, then we add these additional set attributes. So the data overlay, this is the color that gets overlaid on the image, and then the data speed, that's for the parallax and how fast it moves. And then we print the background image by itself in a background image div, and then we print the content without the image, without invert, without overlay, without parallax. So that gives you like a more complex example. And that thing on the demo site, I have the Lego picture with it scrolling up and down. I think there's a zoom and a parallax on there. So I needed to do that for a client. We were working on Drupal Lite site, it was on Pantheon, we're all working locally, and we had the idea for this bundle. But we know we've built these hero kind of features before. And we were building it in such a way where we could actually use this on other sites. So I wanted to work globally. So we started working on this module on an empty install. We just spun up a sandbox on Pantheon with a blank Drupal 8 install. We installed Bootstrap Paragraphs, and then we started building there. Kind of like the create once, reuse everywhere approach. So we can make these submodules. So we create the bundle structure in an empty install. We create the module folder in there. You can use Drupal console, or you can just do it by hand. Add the template CSS, add a function to override the template. That's probably the hardest PHP developer-y thing. And then we export the config to where it should be. So here's the sandbox. There's the module structure. Just copy any other module structure, or use Drupal console with one command. You can get this set up. We copy the templates from Bootstrap Paragraphs and rename. Add your CSS if you need, add JavaScript if you need, and then configure a library in the modules.library file. And then we add this simple function. We copy this out of Bootstrap Paragraphs. This just says, for the module name, Xeno Hero, theme, if you see a machine name of paragraph Xeno Hero, use this paragraph template. It's like, I never knew I knew PHP, and there you go. It's super easy. When you export the config, there's actually a Drupal console command that you can export the config without these UUIDs. The UUID is universal identifier, or something like that. Basically, this says this is unique to this site. But we don't want that. We want this configuration. We want this YAML. We want the language and the status and the dependencies. But we don't want that UUID. So I really wanted to get to know these config files. So I would export and go in and delete these files individually, just so I could figure out what's going on. In theory, you could come in and write these configuration files yourself, import them into Drupal, and have magic happen. Which I can see now after playing with these for a while. The other thing to note too, when you build things with the Drupal UI, you're using the field UI module. And when you're creating these fields, you get this field underscore in front of it. The first version of Bootstrap Paragraphs had field underscore image as a field. And wouldn't you know it, other people have used that name before in their machine names. So people couldn't install it on their already existing sites. So when I export these config files, you want to go in and change that field underscore name and the machine value to a namespace of your own. Bootstrap Paragraphs uses the BP underscore namespace. The Xeno Hero uses Xeno underscore, company I work for. So you want to change it in the dependencies, these config, you want to change it in the file names, and you want to change it in the content area down at the bottom. And then compile it all up, put it on GitHub, and download it and do it on another sandbox. Just continue to test and iterate before you can install it on your main project. The Xeno Hero, I haven't included it as a module or a part of Bootstrap Paragraphs or a submodule yet. I probably will. I've gotten so many requests for it, but right now it just lives on my company's GitHub. It doesn't really have anything to do with Bootstrap. It just works really well with it. Okay, let's finish up. Using a framework like Drupal, like Bootstrap, like Paragraphs, really benefits productivity. And that's what I was trying to achieve by using this module. Put these all together and, we can install something that would have taken us a couple days to build, and a couple days of building would probably have had some differentials in there. Just right away. It really helps us speed up building. And then you can also use this approach with other front-end framework scripts. The Midcamp site we're working on is Drupal 8, and Palantir.net was helping us build it, and they use a grid system called Singularity. So I built the columns bundles using that grid, using this system. A lot of people use Foundation. I'm assuming that this is, already exists somewhere with Foundation, Slick Carousel, whatever you got. We just want to help our builders build fast and our content creators to be able to build fast and get exactly what they want. And I'm pretty sure you can do that here. Got to give a lot of thanks to the creators of the Paragraphs module. Bunch of European guys here, Jerome, VDMI, they were the original builders and still manage the Drupal 7. A company called MD Systems is managing the Drupal 8, and they have a very extensive roadmap of what they'd like to do. There are some things that people don't like about Paragraphs, that they're not, there's no library of paragraph bundles. Once you create one, it is on this node forever. They have on their roadmap where they want to basically make them reusable. If you delete a node, the paragraphs actually stay in the database. Right now, if you use node clone or an entity clone, or there's another one, replicate, I think. These are ways where once you have a perfectly built page, you should be able to make a copy of it. Because I made this perfect landing page, I want to make a copy, change some things for the new content. Well, if you were to delete the copy of the page, you would actually delete the paragraphs on the first page. That's on the roadmap. So there's a lot of work in this space going. It's almost like the media initiative. The Paragraphs initiative is very strong. They have a really good roadmap in the issue queue and a nice presentation. Which it's a lot of work for a contrib, to give away for free, which is pretty great. Again, Les Lim and David Needham. If you don't know, when you're a front-end builder or a site builder, there is a Drupal TWIG Slack. It's not the main Drupal Slack. The main Drupal Slack is awesome, but messages go away really quickly because there is a lot of traffic there. The Drupal TWIG Slack is kind of, low-key and not that much there, and a lot of super awesome people there to help. So there's a link there to that. And then so many people in Stack Overflow, where I always ended up on Kotzer's Scott Reeves answered questions when I was doing all this Twig research. So I always have to give a shout out to him. More thanks to the people that help in the issue queue. We've had 70-something issues that have been brought up, feature requests. We're working through them. We came out with a beta of the module, the 2.x branch, a week or two ago, and so far so good. There's some issues with translation, which I haven't really dug into. I got some guys in Cyprus, the island nation of Cyprus, helping me out with that. My amazing coworkers at Xenomedia, and my co-maintainer Al Bertsky for helping me with all the PHP things all the time. All right, that's all I got. You can find this presentation, demo site, download it, let me know what you think, follow me on Twitter, and thanks. Anybody have any questions? So it's jimbir.ch/dp.
Oh,
And it's not a download, but it'll be there forever.
oh, great.
Sure. Yeah.
Because this is beyond the scope here, I'm just curious if you want to be able to export these paragraphs.
Export what?
Paragraphs for a
Yeah, okay, so RSS feeds and paragraphs is another layer of complexity when you use it. So you have a view mode of a node, and your view mode of the node has your rendered paragraph output, the default. What you need to do is make a second view mode on all of the paragraph bundles. Format that for the RSS feed that you need. So if it's a video, you want to use an image thumbnail. If it's a simple text, you want to have the simple text. You don't have to change everything, but the things that have JavaScript, you want to render it a different way. Things like video, you want to render it a different way. So once you have that view mode on your paragraph entities, then you also need to make a view mode on your node that uses the RSS view mode of your paragraphs. So it's a little bit nested view modes of what you're doing. You're making a whole new page within RSS feed, and you're making a whole new display of your paragraphs. The same goes for AMP pages also. So if you have a page that has an AMP view mode, you need to have an AMP view mode of all your paragraphs. Cool. Anyone else? All right, thanks for coming, and have a great rest of your band here.